In the heart of Elizabethan England, an era of cultural effervescence and social change, lies the picturesque town of Stratford-upon-Avon. There, in April 1564, William Shakespeare was born, a boy who unknowingly was destined to redefine literature and theatre forever. Baptized on April 26, he came from a family of some local standing. His father, John Shakespeare, was a prosperous glover and wool merchant, who ascended to important positions in the town's administration, eventually becoming bailiff, the equivalent of a mayor. His mother, Mary Arden, came from a wealthy farming family. William's childhood was, presumably, typical for a burgher's son of the time. It is believed that he attended the King's New School in Stratford, a free grammar school that offered a rigorous classical education. There, he would have studied Latin, rhetoric, history, and the great works of Roman authors like Ovid, Virgil, and Seneca. This education, though not university level, would provide the foundation for his prodigious language and his deep knowledge of human nature, which would later manifest in his plays. However, Shakespeare's life is marked by one of the greatest enigmas in literary history, the so-called lost years. After his marriage in November 1582 to Anne Hathaway, who was 8 years older and already pregnant with their first daughter, Susanna, historical records about William Shakespeare virtually disappear. He was only 18 years old. The couple would have 2 more children, twins Hamnet and Judith, in 1585, but between 1585 and 1592, there is an almost complete documentary void. It is not precisely known what Shakespeare did during these 7 years. Many theories have emerged to fill this gap. Some suggest he may have been a schoolmaster, a lawyer, a butcher, a soldier, or a deer poacher, fleeing legal troubles. Others believe he was working as an assistant in some London theatre, learning the ropes of the trade. This gap, though frustrating for biographers, contributes to the aura of mystery surrounding the bard, allowing imagination to fill in the blanks. What is certain is that when Shakespeare reappears in London's historical records around 1592, he is no longer the unknown young man from Stratford. He is establishing himself as an actor and, more notably, as a rising playwright. A pamphlet by Robert Greene, a rival playwright, attacks him as an upstart crow, beautified with our feathers, suggesting that Shakespeare was beginning to steal the show in the London theatre scene, provoking jealousy among the already established. This mention, though negative, is the first concrete evidence of Shakespeare's presence in the London theatrical landscape. The mysterious years may have been the period of his self-taught formation, of keen observation of life, human passions, and the complexities of the court and the street. Regardless of what he did during that time, when he emerged, he brought with him a sharp mind, unparalleled poetic sensibility, and a deep understanding of the human condition, elements that would soon make him the greatest writer of his nation. Around 1592, William Shakespeare was already established in London, not just as an actor, but as a recognized playwright, though he still provoked jealousy from rivals like Robert Greene. Elizabethan London was a bustling cauldron of culture, commerce, and intrigue, a magnet for talents from all over England. The city, with its growing population and eager demand for entertainment, was the perfect setting for the flourishing of theatre. Shakespeare quickly associated with one of the leading theatrical companies of the time, the Lord Chamberlain's Men. This company, formed in 1594, was sponsored by Lord Chamberlain, a high court official. His rise was remarkable. He was not only the company's principal playwright, he was also an actor, performing in his own plays, and, crucially, a shareholder. This financial stake in the company was a masterstroke that guaranteed him a share of the profits, providing him with a financial security rare for a writer of that era. The company's prosperity was directly linked to the success of Shakespeare's plays. During this period, he wrote some of his most beloved comedies and historical plays, such as A Midsummer Night's Dream, The Merchant of Venice, Henry IV, Parts 1 and 2, and Richard III. These works captivated audiences with their vivid language, memorable characters, and engaging plots, which blended the sublime with the popular, royalty with the common folk. Theatre was the primary entertainment for the masses, attracting both nobility and common people. The Globe Theatre, built in 1599 on the south bank of the River Thames, became the home of the Lord Chamberlain's Men and, by extension, the epicenter of Shakespeare's creations. It was an open-air theatre, with capacity for thousands of spectators, with standing room for the commoners, the groundlings, and covered seating for the elite. The Globe's architecture, with its thrust stage extending into the audience, promoted a dynamic interaction between actors and public, a striking feature of Shakespearean productions. Shakespeare's relationship with the Lord Chamberlain's Men was symbiotic. The company provided him with a permanent stage, dedicated actors, and a loyal audience, while he, with his genius, delivered a constant flow of new plays that ensured the troupe's financial success. When Queen Elizabeth I died in 1603 and James I ascended to the throne, the company received royal patronage, becoming the King's Men. This change granted them even greater prestige and security, solidifying Shakespeare's position as the court's playwright. Life in London, however, was not without challenges. Plagues, such as the bubonic plague, often forced the closure of theaters, interrupting performances and affecting profits. Disputes with rival playwrights and the political tensions of the court were also part of daily life. Still, Shakespeare, with his business acumen and unquestionable talent, navigated these turbulent waters, consolidating his fortune and his reputation. By the end of the 16th century and the beginning of the 17th century, William Shakespeare was already a prominent figure in London's cultural scene, a man who had transformed his passion for writing and acting into an unprecedented successful career. His period in London was what elevated him from a young man from Stratford to a master of words, leading him towards the immortal works that were yet to come. The years between 1599 and 1608 are considered the most productive and brilliant period of William Shakespeare's career. It was in this golden decade that he produced most of his great tragedies, works that would explore the depths of the human soul, questioning morality, madness, love, revenge, and power in unparalleled ways. His mastery of language and his ability to create complex characters reached their peak, solidifying his place as one of the greatest writers of all time. His tragedies are a study of the human condition, filled with overwhelming passions and inexorable destinies. Hamlet, written around 1600, is perhaps his most famous work, a dive into hesitation, revenge, and melancholy, with the Danish prince questioning existence itself. Othello, from around 1603, explores the fury of jealousy and psychological manipulation, leading a noble general to ruin. King Lear, written around 1605, is a powerful meditation on madness, ingratitude, and the search for love amidst old age. And Macbeth, from around 1606, is a dark tragedy about unrestrained ambition and guilt, which leads a Scottish warrior to commit regicide and plunge into tyranny. In addition to tragedies, Shakespeare produced vibrant and lively comedies, which, though light on the surface, often addressed complex social and philosophical themes. Plays like The Taming of the Shrew, Much Ado About Nothing, and Twelfth Night demonstrate his genius for humor, wordplay, and plot twists. His historical plays such as Henry V and Julius Caesar offered audiences a mirror of their own time, exploring the complexities of power, leadership, and the nature of royalty, using history as an allegory. Shakespeare's genius lay not only in the depth of his themes, but in his literary and theatrical innovation. He mastered blank verse, a rhymeless yet rhythmic poetic style which gave his characters natural yet elevated speech, allowing for the expression of complex thoughts and intense emotions. He expanded the English language's vocabulary by over 1,000 words, many of which we still use today, such as eyeball, swagger, fashionable, and lonely. His metaphors, similes, and puns were unparalleled, enriching dialogue and narrative in revolutionary ways. Shakespeare was a master at character creation. His protagonists and antagonists are three-dimensional figures, full of flaws and virtues, with whom the audience could identify deeply. From Romeo and Juliet, the star-crossed lovers, to Falstaff, the charismatic buffoon, his characters became archetypes that resonate through centuries, influencing literature, cinema, and theater to this day. He understood the complexities of human psychology and projected them onto his characters with impressive veracity. His influence extended beyond the text. The performances of his plays at the Globe Theatre were vibrant events, with elaborate costumes, music, sound effects, and occasionally, special effects. He knew how to captivate a diverse audience, from king to commoner, with a mix of humor, drama, action, and poetry. By the end of his London career, Shakespeare had produced a body of work that not only brought him fame and fortune but also set a new standard for playwriting. His plays were staged, read, and discussed, becoming the pillar of English theatre. The man from Stratford, with his prodigious pen, had, in fact, shaped lives and secured an immortal place in the history of world literature. Around 1613, William Shakespeare, at the height of his fame and fortune, decided to retire from the bustling life of London and return to his hometown, Stratford-upon-Avon. He had bought properties, invested in land, and, unlike many of his fellow playwrights, secured a comfortable retirement. His last years were spent as a respected citizen, enjoying his wealth and his family. Although he wrote a few plays during this period, his most prolific phase had ended. Death reached him on April 23, 1616, the same day believed to be his birth anniversary. Shakespeare was buried in the Church of the Holy Trinity, in Stratford-upon-Avon, under a tombstone with an epitaph that, according to legend, he himself wrote, warning against anyone who dared move his bones. His death, for many, marked the end of an era in English theatre. However, Shakespeare's immortality would not reside in his life, but in his work. Shortly after his death, in 1623, John Hemminge and Henry Condell, two actors and friends of Shakespeare from his company, published the first folio. This compilation brought together 36 of his plays, many of which had never been printed before, or existed only in incomplete versions. The first folio was an act of love and a monumental effort that ensured the preservation of a large part of Shakespeare's work for future generations. Without it, many of his plays could have been lost forever. Shakespeare's legacy is vast and multifaceted, with an influence that transcends the boundaries of literature. He is the most staged, translated, and studied author worldwide. His plays are constantly reinvented in theater, adapted for cinema and television, and continue to be relevant in cultures as diverse as Japanese, Indian, and Brazilian. His stories of love, power, revenge, and redemption are universal, touching upon timeless themes of the human condition. His influence on the English language is incalculable. Shakespeare not only used language masterfully, he expanded it. He coined thousands of words and phrases that have become an integral part of everyday vocabulary, such as all that glitters is not gold, to be or not to be, break the ice, fashionable eyeball, lonely, and many others. His verses, aphorisms, and idioms are constantly quoted, often without knowing they come from his plays. He is, in fact, the greatest source of quotations in the English language after the Bible. Beyond literature, Shakespeare influenced psychology, philosophy, music, and politics. Characters like Hamlet, Othello, and Lady Macbeth are studied for their psychological depth. His tragedies expose the flaws of kings and leaders, while his comedies celebrate humanity in its diversity. His works became a canon, a benchmark for artistic excellence and the exploration of human experience. Throughout the centuries, the fascination with Shakespeare has also generated myths and controversies. The most famous is the authorship question, which raises doubts about whether William Shakespeare of Stratford was truly the author of all works attributed to him. Theories suggest other candidates such as Francis Bacon or Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford. However, the overwhelming majority of Shakespearean scholars and historians reject these theories, pointing to documented evidence that, though sparse in some periods, is consistent in attributing the works to him. This controversy, however persistent, merely adds an extra layer to the mystery surrounding the bard. William Shakespeare, the man from Stratford who became the immortal bard, is proof of the enduring power of words and the ability of a genius to transcend his time. His work, a mirror of the human soul, continues to teach us, move us, and challenge us, ensuring his voice resonates on all stages and pages of the world, for all eternity. William Shakespeare is a giant of literature whose work still fascinates us and provokes us to reflect on the human condition. Which play or character by Shakespeare touched you most or made you think? Do you believe there is any real mystery about the authorship of Shakespeare's works, or is his genius simply unquestionable? Share your opinion in the comments and join our discussion about the immortal bard. And if there's another genius of literature or the arts, or a cultural event that changed the world, that you'd love us to explore in our next video, leave your suggestion below. Your curiosity is our guide to unraveling the great stories of the world.